noticed already. All too often, it is the innocent who end up getting killed. Here's AFR correspondent Jam Sardar now with a closer look at what we can do to get repeat drunk drivers off the road.
Meet James Klein. You could call this Ohio man the poster boy of repeat drunk drivers. His 12, that's right, 12 convictions for drinking and driving failed to keep him off the road. The 13th time proved unlucky for the 2 college students he killed when he got behind the wheel of his girlfriend's truck and destroyed their car. It's the most shocking, but unfortunately not the only episode of a repeat drunk driver who claimed a life. Bryce Templeton knows that firsthand, because on January 29, 1996, he got the news every parent dreads.
4:15 in the morning, my wife nudged me awake and said she'd heard someone at the door. She saw there were some flashing police lights outside.
His son, a 34-year-old doctor in training, died in a head-on collision on Interstate 87. Sharing the road with him was another driver with a blood alcohol of .17. He was driving 70 miles an hour, heading south in the northbound lane. The results are all too plain to see.
And it's the front left part of the Corolla that was just really torn apart.
That's why this father joined Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It's where he lobbies for laws that would increase the use of ignition interlocks. It's basically an in-car breathalyzer, and if you fail, you can't start your engine.
While you're on an interlock, your chance of having alcohol-impaired arrest or crash is markedly diminished.
It's extremely frustrating for many of us who know that driving is a privilege, not a right. The more we can do to get these repeat drunk drivers off the road, the more lives we'll save.
Templeton's got the support of the drivers' advocates at AAA. The group says there's a whole list of things officers and lawmakers can do to stop scenes like these. For instance, setting up sobriety checkpoints. They've proven to be an effective way to catch or deter drunk drivers. Other ideas? Give police the power to suspend the license of someone who refuses to take a breath test, and make the penalty for refusing the test worse than the penalty for driving drunk. And states can also do simple things, like letting police pull people over for not wearing their seatbelts.
And we know that many drunk drivers don't wear their seatbelts. So if one state can just enact a primary seatbelt law, they might be able to have an impact on the number of people drinking and driving.
Because if so few drivers cause so many accidents, claim so many lives, then a little extra effort against them can make a big difference.
There's a very small group of repeat, hardcore driving under the influence offenders that create most of the crashes that we see and are responsible for a great number of the fatalities. If we can do something about them, we can maybe get to some of the root of the problem.
Well, it's a varied problem, Jam, and I don't know if there's a one-point cure-all for this, because different states have different laws in this regard, right?
Absolutely, and that's part of the problem. There are all kinds of ideas to when it comes to stopping the hardcore drinkers and the repeat drunk drivers. The problem is every time you want to start one of these laws, there are 50 different states where you have to do it. So we're fighting drunk driving on 50 separate different battlegrounds, and with each law, it's a whole new challenge over and over again.
This is a topic we've talked about before, but as we progress in the discussion, do you see progress along the way in terms of legislation or in terms of what the automobile industry is doing, initiatives that, for example, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, that they're doing? Any progress?
Slowly but surely we're seeing that progress, and of course we did a story just recently how the latest number of overall highway deaths is down. And that's one good thing. We're also seeing states picking up the ball because of the organizations of groups like Mothers Against Drunk Driving lobbying for this kind of thing. And we're also seeing, the car manufacturers. Soon I imagine we'll see that the side airbags are going to become something that's standard instead of something that's few and far between on cars. And each of those things, that's not necessarily drunk driving related, but it's safety related and could help save lives.
And again, the side airbag, again, that's just a safety thing, as you said, but how does that necessarily play into this?
Anything that makes a situation safer. A primary seatbelt law, for example, doesn't specifically have to do with drunk driving. It's a law that would let police pull you over just for not having your seatbelt on. But as we said, people who drive drunk don't put their seatbelts on. And so a law that's not specifically targeting drunk driving could still help go a long way.
When we mentioned the automobile industry, and we talked about these breathalyzer machines that you'd have to be able to blow into your car, and the smart car would either let you drive or not, depending on how you registered
Right.
in the breathalyzer. Those things seem like that might be farther down the road, though.
That's not going to be something that we're going to see the automobile makers do as much as we're going to see something, again, a law, a crackdown by the states. And one of the things that organizations like MAD would like to see is, instead of waiting until someone has been busted 3, 4, 5, 6 times before putting the ignition interlock, after the first offense, especially if they've got a blood alcohol level that's above, say, 0.15 when they're really, really drunk. Doing that from the get-go is something that's going to help.
And I'm glad you mentioned the blood alcohol level, because I really don't believe that a lot of people fully understand the blood alcohol level of 0.15 or 1.5 or whatever, and they certainly don't know what they're registering when they walk out of a bar.
Absolutely, and the 0.08 that we've seen states almost unanimously adopt, a lot of people still think that's too high for certain people who don't have a lot of tolerance. 0.08 is, I wouldn't want to be on the road with someone who had that.